This offseason, the talk of New York baseball was all about the Yankees and Mets' signature stars. Reigning and defending AL MVP Aaron Judge signed a massive 9-year, $360 million contract to stay in the Bronx, a move that will keep him in pinstripes for almost a decade. Across town, the Mets saw longtime ace Jacob DeGrom split for Texas, where he inked a 5-year, $185 million deal to anchor the Rangers' rotation. Judge and DeGrom are two of the top performers in baseball, and arguably have been the best at their positions for the last several years, despite battling an assortment of injuries. But have these two New York icons done enough to make their case for baseball immortality? In this video, we'll explore Judge and DeGrom's chances for success in a different region of New York, the Hall of Fame in Cooperstown. All rise for Aaron Judge, who towered over the competition in 2022 and firmly established himself as one of the greatest players in baseball. What more can we say about the Judge after his historic 62-homer season? Well, perhaps a little more. Not only did Judge set the record for most home runs by a player in the American League, breaking fellow Yankee Roger Maris's 61 homers in 1961, his season was also a historic one by another measure, the advanced metric weighted runs created plus. That metric is designed to quantify how much offensive value a player has and boil it down to one number, with 100 being considered league average. A WRC plus of 160 is considered to be truly elite. So, how good was Aaron Judge in 2022, you ask? Well, his WRC plus was 207, tied for 20th in MLB history. Only 4 AL players have ever had a season with more weighted offensive value than Judge: Babe Ruth, Lou Gehrig, Ted Williams, and Mickey Mantle, all of which stopped playing multiple decades before he was born. But Judge's greatness didn't start with 2022. No, he's also been the second best hitter in all of baseball over the past 5 seasons, trailing only Mike Trout in weighted runs created plus. And although injuries in the pandemic-shortened season didn't allow him to reach his full potential from 2018 to 2020, he's bounced back in a big way over the last 2 years. But can Big Aaron make it to the Hall of Fame? Well, in order to do that, he'll have to really make the most of his 30s. After all, Judge is already 30 years old, and he got a late start compared to other Hall of Fame sluggers like Mantle and Hank Aaron, who launched their big league careers much younger than Judge did at 24. So how can Judge pull it off? To reach Cooperstown, you need to earn what they call black ink. Players need to either hit huge milestones or win awards, or better yet, do both. It might be unfair in today's analytically minded society, but these are the constraints we have to work within. With Judge stepping into his age 31 season, he probably only has a decade to rack up more homers, MVP honors, or wins by replacement, for all that matters to Hall of Fame voters in today's climate. Let's start with homers. Judge is still 280 home runs short of 500. He'd need to average 40 per season over 7 years to hit that prestigious milestone, which is absolutely possible at the rate he's been cranking dingers. But there's a decent chance he won't get there, as at a massive 6'7", it's likely his body will age even worse than your average hitter. Something worth considering is he also has an outside chance at another elite gathering that would all but guarantee a Hall of Fame induction, the 700 home run club. So far, Judge has hit 220 home runs at an astonishing 49 home runs per 162 game pace. In fact, if Judge can come close to that pace and hit 48 home runs over the next 10 years, he has a shot at that elusive elite 700. That would make Cooperstown undeniable. To be frank, anything more than 500 all but guarantees induction. Another way into the Hall might be to ring up 2 more MVP awards, which would bring his career total to 3. While players have been excluded from the Hall after winning 2 MVP awards, every player who's won 3 and doesn't have a PED cloud hanging over their head has been inducted. And then there is achieving greatness by a more advanced measure that isn't fully weighted in today's climate, in my opinion. One of the best statistical ways of determining whether or not a player is worthy of enshrinement is Jay Jaff's JAWS metric, which uses WAR to measure both peak and longevity. Judge's peak is outstanding. Only Babe Ruth has been worth more value per 162 games amongst right fielders, but he currently ranks 50th all-time amongst right fielders with a JAWS of 37.0, which actually means he's trailing his teammate Giancarlo Stanton in the race for a bronze plaque. With his late start, time is the enemy in Judge's march towards immortality, and undoubtedly so will be injuries. Between playing full seasons in 2017, when he hit 52 home runs as a rookie, and last year, when he hit 62, Judge missed 156 games due to various injuries. That's almost a full season from the prime of his career. Many an injury-prone slugging giant has fallen short of the Hall because of nagging injuries. Just ask someone like Dave Kingman or Darryl Strawberry, both of which had a shot at 500 before their careers were brought down by that pesky injury bug. Jacob DeGrom, the 2-time Cy Young Award winner and 4-time All-Star, burst onto the scene in 2014 with a dazzling Rookie of the Year campaign, and was an unbeatable force in the Mets starting rotation until he departed for Arlington. Like Judge, DeGrom's big league career started relatively late compared to other greats. After converting from the infield to the mound in his mid-20s, DeGrom steadily improved his velocity season over season, something that few starting pitchers have ever really been capable of doing in their late 20s. And the results were astounding: a league-best 1.70 ERA in 2018, 255 strikeouts in 2019, and a historic injury-shortened year in 2021, where he put up an ERA plus of 373, making him almost 4 times better than an average pitcher. Additionally, from 2016 to 2022, his strikeout rate per 9 innings increased every single season, from 8.7 to 14.3. Now, entering his age 35 season, he'll look to thrive in his new surroundings in Texas, away from the bright lights and World Series expectations of Queens. While his career is likely far from over, let's examine whether or not DeGrom has done enough to warrant consideration for a plaque in the Hall of Fame, or if another few years of elite performance might just do the trick for him. To get into the Hall, DeGrom needs some of the same things Judge does: milestones, awards, and racking up additional overall value. The way starting pitching has changed over the last few decades, it's unlikely that DeGrom will have any opportunity to chase historic benchmarks in career wins or strikeouts. For example, he's more than 100 wins away from 200, and is nearly 1,400 Ks away from 3,000. But ERA is a rate stat, and DeGrom is a wizard at run prevention with a 2.65 career ERA. If he can continue to push this mark into historically low territory as he approaches 2,000 career innings, he might just have a shot at the Hall. Another possible route for DeGrom is to chase at least one more Cy Young Award. Like with MVPs, 2 doesn't necessarily guarantee a spot in Cooperstown, but everyone with 3 and no PED accusations is either in the Hall of Greats or well on their way, like former teammate Max Scherzer and DeGrom's own replacement in Queens, Justin Verlander. It's not a sure thing, but would surely help. Jaws, however, in this consideration could be a tough nut to crack. DeGrom is currently 117th amongst starting pitchers, with names like Chris Sale, Felix Hernandez, and Cole Hamels well above his current position, let alone the guys who've already been inducted into the Hall. Again, like Judge, DeGrom is exceptional on a rate basis, with few inducted Hall of Famers topping his value produced inning by inning, but he'll have to stay both healthy and effective for several more years to establish him in the truly top tier by this measure. But 5 or more seasons at his 2019 through 2022 level could just do the trick. So, how can Judge and DeGrom do it? How can these two icons transcend their current status as all-stars and rise to the ranks of the immortals? Well, there are some existing blueprints. We mentioned before that Judge needs 280 homers to hit the 500 homer mark, and that might be his best chance at immortality. Well, only 8 players have ever hit that many home runs between the ages of 31 and 39, and more than a few of them have ties to performance-enhancing drugs. The comp that catches my eye is former Masher for Hire Jim Thome, who spent his 30s drifting from team to team, smashing homers and providing exceptional offensive value into his early 40s. Though Thome didn't quite match up to Judge's stature, he was certainly a big dude who used his raw muscle to crush baseballs well past his prime. Another favorable comp between the two has to do with walk rate. Thome's career walk rate was an extremely high 17%, and Judge doesn't trail him by much at 15. If he continues to be selective as Thome did, he can remain effective in terms of adding overall value at the plate aside from just his power, assuring he'll be getting at-bats late into his 30s. For DeGrom, let's look at another lanky hurler who started his career in New York, Sandy Koufax. Koufax was able to essentially stake his Hall of Fame case on 6 immaculate seasons, from 1961 to 1966, in which the southpaw dominated baseball like few hurlers have before or since. Koufax retired at the age of 30 because of chronic arthritis in his throwing elbow, but not before collecting 3 Cy Young Awards, 4 no-hitters including 1 perfect game, and tallying a career ERA of 2.76. DeGrom's otherworldly performance from 2018 through 2022 is essentially the equivalent of 3 full seasons of starting pitching work. If DeGrom can keep up his current level of performance in 2023, 2024, and 2025, and pick up at least 1 more Cy Young along the way, I think the voting body for the Hall would have trouble keeping the Stetson product out of Cooperstown by the same measurements that they inducted Sandy with. Remember, Hall of Fame consideration is usually given for both peak performance and longevity, and while it's unlikely that DeGrom could find the kind of sustained success of a Verlander or Kershaw, stretching this peak across 3 more seasons would give him a level of dominance not seen since Koufax dominated in the early 60s. Both Judge and DeGrom have a handful of exceptional seasons to their credit, and that does some of the heavy lifting for the Baseball Hall of Fame. Over the years, it's become evident that the voting members of the BBWAA and the Veterans Committee are becoming more and more open to the idea of giving induction to players with high peak values, instead of just incredible longevity. For example, Kirby Puckett entered the Hall after playing less than 1,800 games, relatively few for a Hall of Famer. And just for context, Judge's career value is so exceptional that he'd likely clear Puckett's career WAR totals with just 3 more seasons playing at his all-star level. There's also a mental benefit to spending a whole career with a single team, which Aaron Judge is likely to benefit from as he's looking to stay in pinstripes for his entire career. DeGrom has an even stronger case for enshrinement based on limited innings if we look at a certain group of pitchers. Relief pitchers. After 2022, DeGrom cleared the 1,300 inning mark, which gives him more over his career than Mariano Rivera, Trevor Hoffman, Goose Gossage, or Lee Smith. By most rate or counting stats, DeGrom dwarfs the achievements of the game's best relief pitchers, an incredible feat given how they were able to perform in short bursts rather than facing hitters multiple times in one game. Only Rivera tops DeGrom's career ERA, but falls well short of DeGrom's significant strikeout advantage. Yes, closers have to pitch in the game's toughest pressure cookers, but inning by inning, DeGrom has shown greater performance than the game's most elite firemen, and as relief pitchers become valued more and more in the evolving game, I think that will have to be taken into consideration by Hall of Fame voting members. Of course, Judge and DeGrom's careers are far from over, and a torn UCL or ACL might mean the difference between the Hall of Fame and the Hall of Very Good. After all, when your MLB career begins in your mid-20s instead of your late teens, there's precious little room for error when aiming for Cooperstown. Nevertheless, Judge and DeGrom have established themselves as perennial all-stars, icons of the game, and performers who will undoubtedly leave memories that will stand the test of time, whether or not they're enshrined in some museum west of Albany. These two adopted New Yorkers will still have legacies of amazing baseball accomplishments, even more so if one or both manage to win a World Series over the remainder of their current contracts. Thanks for watching, everybody. Make sure to subscribe for more and click this playlist for baseball videos just like this. Have a great day.